If we got a show for you. Lil Sean. Broccoli, celery, gotta be VeggieTales. Lima beans, collard greens, peachy keen, VeggieTales. Cauliflower, sweet and sour, half an hour, VeggieTales. VeggieTales, VeggieTales, it's time for VeggieTales. Throwback,
For Liz
Sunday
Brody,
school.
there are two holy books. In each episode of this podcast, we have discussed one, but today, and frankly, often the other. But today, we discuss the other book.
Yes.
To not rule them all as much as the one book to rule them all.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's
in
one.
this case, the Torah.
One scroll.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. One scroll to rule them all.
Hi, everyone.
Oh,
I'm Michael Ruffino.
Well, there's 5 books of the Chumash. Okay. You're Michael Ruffino.
Who are you?
I'm Liz Brody.
And have we got a show for you? It's time. This is the episode
It is
that
time.
we have been. I feel like this is a culmination. This is like a season finale for us because of how much we've built up, because of how much Liz Brody loves Lord of the Rings and VeggieTales, and the synthesis of the two of them.
They finally together at last.
Finally, chocolate and peanut butter
For someone.
for someone. And today we have a guest.
We have
of
a
course.
guest.
Frankie from Red Cow Entertainment, Box Mac, Junt's Cart, Red Cow Arcade, the podcast with the most. Hi, Frankie.
Hi.
The podcast with the most moderate views.
The most L takes.
It's funny. Plenty of those. It's funny. Like the older you get, the longer the kind of like roll of thing. They're like, and that show you did, and that book you wrote, and the thing you did, and the kid you had. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting older. It's true.
You're building a body of work to be proud of, I'd say.
You get to that place when people
Yeah.
are like, didn't you used to? And it's like, oh yeah, it was 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'm like, well, that was recent. No, it wasn't. But I have to say, I'm honored to have been brought on like what I consider to be the easy episode, like the one that's the most enjoyable and like will make, I think the smoothest conversation as a big Lord of the Rings fan myself. And this is like the episode of VeggieTales, Lord of the Beans, that my daughter has been watching. Like as she was getting into Lord of the Rings, actually, she's 8.5. She was getting into Lord of the Beans. So if I could have chosen any, it would have been this one. And you let me do it. So I'm honored.
Of course. I remember our conversation with Adam Condra, and he was like, this, VeggieTales as a project seems like a good way for me to introduce my kids to Monty Python. And I think about that a lot. And watching this, I was like, if I had a child, is this how I would introduce that child to Lord of the Rings? And I was like, if I had a child, it would probably be named after Lord of the Rings character. So I think like...
Come on, Galadriel, and sit down.
Yeah.
Ear of Corn Ruffino.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, no, this is I was gonna say it is like a good little introduction. It's definitely
I introduced my daughter to the Lord of the Rings, the Peter Jackson movies way too early. Like I was just way too eager to do it because they're just so awesome. And they were such a formative part of my like teen years that I showed it to her when she was like 4, I think, maybe 5. Or at least because she went through this multi-year phase where she was like, tell me a story. It was very sweet. So as she was going to bed and I was like, a hobbit is never late. Bilbo Baggins, it just started. And then what you find is you're like, oh, I can do the whole trilogy across the next like 12 nights. But then very, very soon after, it was like, maybe we should just cool it with the PG-13 movies and just do Lord of the Beans for a while. Now she's like 8, she's going to be 9 in June. And we did just see Two Towers in theaters and we watched the rest of them at home. And yeah, I mean, they definitely stuck with her. She's in love. And we're reading The Hobbit from beginning to end. Like I
admire you going straight into the Lord of the Rings and glossing it, or not going with The Hobbit, the most bedtime story of them all.
I say my introduction to the world of Tolkien was Leonard Nimoy's Bilbo Baggins song.
Sure. Yeah. But what about Frodo of the 9 Fingers and the Ring of Doom? Do you know that one?
Yes. We also had the Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings on video. So that was
The one that tells about 2/3 of a story.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I loved it. The
Yeah.
animation was like so interesting to me. So that was like really important to me as a kid. Oh, that is thunder.
Oh no, yeah.
Oh, we got a storm. We got a storm of brewing.
There's
If we lose power.
The theme song to the Bakshi one. The song to the Bakshi one is like a cavalry. It's like
Yeah.
dun 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 dun.
It's very
Which just doesn't give me
majestic.
the feeling of Lord of the Rings.
It's very epic. Look,
It feels kind of medieval times, really. The
Yeah.
Bakshi music.
Bakshi's music and his animation had the tendency to not match, which I appreciate.
All I ever think of when I watch those movies is Frodo Baggins doing his little. He has this little sachet that he does, like when he's just kind of walking with Gandalf, just kind of flopping his big old feet with Gandalf.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gandalf likes to talk with his hands a lot and gesticulate.
I just watched the whole thing on VHS on a little 9-inch CRT, like a real hipster, and I was like, you know what, this is great. Oh, sorry, this is a Christian podcast. Can I swear on this? Is it okay?
If you swear, we censor it with sound effects taken from the Larry Boy video game where Larry takes damage.
Yeah.
So go.
And,
All right, yeah.
and very important to our podcast lore and history, Rufino was the first one to get a censorship.
Yeah.
So
This
it wasn't me.
This is my policy, and I'm gonna.
North Jersey June Lee didn't get the first one.
That'll be the last of that.
Like I said, we do like PG-13 swearing.
Yeah.
It was usually okay.
As long as I don't have to tag.
Bart Simpson's favorite swears, like hell damn crap.
Yeah.
Those are allowed. As long as I don't have to tag my VeggieTales podcast explicit,
Yeah.
I feel like we're okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Even though we do talk about like horrible war crimes and genocide.
Yeah. Look, if you're going to swear, do it in Yiddish and it's fine. Yeah.
All right. Do you guys want to talk about this?
Oh no!
Cartoon.
Cute Larry going, oh no.
Do you guys want to talk about this
Cartoon.
Ouch!
I'm always dreaming about my Frodo.
Our first conversation with our guest is going to be like, what is your relationship to VeggieTales and or religion?
Oh gosh, 2 huge questions.
Two deep, heavy questions.
Well, VeggieTales was my voice just broke. I sounded like Larry. Well, VeggieTales. I remember being like intrigued because I was too old for it. I was like 14, 15, 16 when it was gaining popularity and when they were like a really kind of like infant company. But I was intrigued. I was like, what are they doing over there? They're releasing a straight to DVD show. Is that like a way to get around the fact that like people won't put your show on TV? And it was obvious that like maybe Christian programming wasn't the kind of thing that was going to, like Fox Kids is going to put on, right? So it was like, oh, and I just thought the medium of DVD as a way around that was cool. And I also thought it was really novel that they were doing 3D animation when it was obviously like they were punching above their weight. Like they didn't have the budget for it, clearly. But they were doing it anyway. They didn't care. They're like, we're doing Jesus and we're doing CG and no one will tell us that. And that was enough to like get my attention. And I remember I saw Pirates Who Don't Do Anything and Jonah in theaters for that reason. I had like a couple friends who were maybe like ironically interested in VeggieTales or maybe not so ironically. I don't know. But it ended with I got like the 2-disc Jonah DVD. And like I went through all the special features and I just thought it was cool what these guys were doing. Just as a filmmaker, as like a fellow artist, I thought it was really cool. So that's my relationship with the VeggieTales. And then of course, as my daughter's been growing up, it's easy programming for us. And as we've kind of like came into our walk, my wife became a lot more interested in, all things like we got these this great kids Bible and, just the word is a big part of our lives in our house. And so VeggieTales was a cool way to do that. But as far as history with Christianity, it's worth painting this picture. I grew up in New England. I grew up in Massachusetts, a town called Westport, Massachusetts. I still live there. I'm about 3 miles down from my childhood home. And even though Massachusetts is considered kind of like godless, left wing, all that stuff, this area is not so much. We live in kind of a more conservative area of Massachusetts, like as an example, they have a harvest festival every year. And there's a competition for like which cow took the biggest dump, like that kind. I think it's called the Cow Pie Casino. And so Catholicism, especially like in this area, there's an old saying of like in New England, every church is Catholic, even the ones that aren't, and in the South, every church is Baptist, even the ones that aren't. And it was kind of like that. And my dad was Catholic. My mom went to a Protestant church that was pretty much Catholic, and
Yeah.
And I grew up with it as like, my dad hung, a crucifix on the back of my door and instructed me to say my prayers and all that stuff. But I never really understood it. It felt like a set of edicts. We were Christmas, Easter Christians too. So although my parents both grew up in like very religious homes, my grandmother, she had 13 siblings and all this, super Catholic. But as a matter of fact, I remember going to Catholic masses for Nana. That was it was like, we're all going to go to the Catholic mass for Nana. So you can see like that was the baggage I was carrying. It was like, okay, so it's cultural, so it's New England, so it's dad, so and they get really also like the Catholics get really into obviously the saints, but also there's a whole thing around like when somebody dies, like they're basically God too, which is weird. There's a whole thing of like if we celebrated our our late grandmother's birthday or something, it's like Nana's gonna make sure that the sun is shining today. I was like, wait, is that how it works? So I became an atheist when I was like 14 or something, or 12, I don't know. My girlfriend at the time and wife now was as well. We got kind of swept up in like pendulette, libertarianism, I don't know, like the kind of liberal secular thing that happened across the country and across the culture. This kind of like post 9/11, we don't need God anymore, or we never needed him, and something like that. And I never
Bush era did that to a lot of us.
Yeah. And I never really knew like what relationship with Jesus Christ was. I certainly didn't know what the Holy Spirit was. I had never heard somebody like in a more genuine, heartfelt, sincere way talk to me about the faith. It was kind of this like window dressing, I guess is the best way to put it. And so, life happened and we had a child, and my wife had her parents had a really chaotic divorce that kind of, sent her on a path for a while. And we've been with each other since we were 14. But I think there was a period of time there where she was like, I don't really want to have kids, or I don't really want to get married, or marriage is just a piece of paper, this sort of thing. And so there was like kind of a crisis there where it's like, well, am I just not going to have children? And when we had she eventually gave in. When we had our daughter, I think, the kid starts asking big questions. The parents start asking big questions. And, we ended up, because I do this show called What's in Junt's Cart, where we look at dead and dying retail. And we ended up at like this old, this abandoned mall where they had bought a bunch of space, and the church was called His Providence Church. It's a beautiful, beautiful church with incredible worship and incredible people and a pastor who's my age. And, I just saw this like excellence at this church, and it made me interested at the very least. And I started going, and I started listening and shutting up for once, unlike right now. But, and now we've been going for 5 years and fell in love with the word. And, it's what I have found also. I mean, I won't go on too far of a tangent, but what I found is at first it was like, well, what's it going to be like to go from like a hardline atheist to like, never mind. I'm actually super Christian now. Like, will that be weird? And maybe for a couple people it was, or maybe it was whiplash for a person here or there. But actually people adjust to whoever you want to become next more quickly than you think. And as you can imagine, it's added so much more than it's subtracted. The amount of, like, we have this Discord, right? And we talk about faith on there. And the amount of people who are just kind of listening to our conversation, just like peeping in. And then they'll out of nowhere after like a year, some guy will be like, you guys have changed my life. I'm going to treatment and I'm giving my life to Jesus. And I'm telling my mom today that I'm giving my life to Jesus. I'm like, what? Like just because we were sitting here chatting about it. Like that was, and I think that's the power of Christ, right? Is like, it takes so little, actually. There's another guy in our Discord who's like dying of cancer, or it's actually, I think he's in remission now. So, which is great. But, just praying over him, just taking the time out of our days to pray over him. He's like reading the Discord chats to his family, and that's lifting them all up. And it's just, I think, and I think men too, it's like, I found Christianity to be an area of my life where men can be vulnerable and men can like establish fellowship in a way that's really unique. So it's been incredible. It's totally life-changing. I bring everything to the feet, That's me.
Yeah, and I do agree. Men's groups are kind of the only place where a lot of men can open up to each other without any kind of stigma or judgment, because it's the place for it, sort of.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, well, there's an authority figure there. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things that because of my background, I was I'm Jewish and I was Orthodox for a while later in life, and one of the things that really drew me to it, I think, was just the way that I saw. I went to an Orthodox shul that had a really young rabbi, and it was a very communal thing. Like, he was the rabbi, he was technically the leader, but all of the men really stepped up to take care of each other and protect the community. And also, in Orthodox Springs, men don't touch women they're not related to. So the amount of respect and consent that was just built into this community was so wonderful to experience. And it was something that I really needed at that point in my life. But to see, men learning and talking together in a way that took power out completely, that took that hierarchical structure out, and they were able to be super vulnerable in this space, and being able to see really healthy masculinity was
something that you said about the Discord also reminded me, tying into our moral for today. Using your gifts to help people.
Yeah.
It's interesting that your YouTube channel is part of your faith testimony. And I did a podcast for a couple of years. Yeah. And I did a podcast for a couple of years just with a friend, goofing around doing improv. And a person that I had connected with and known for a while, who went to open mics in town, was shipped out to Afghanistan and came back. And when he came back, he said that listening to my podcast, he would listen to my podcast in the desert, and the bunks, and it would take him back home. And I was like, I was just messing around, doing bits, and it helped somebody, fight homesickness. It's like, you never know when you use your gifts, you never know who you might help.
Yeah,
that's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, and that's why it's just and I think it's like an old principle too of standing tall in whatever it is that you believe. By breaking away from the group and standing tall, almost always there's people around who are watching. My pastor said something recently about for those who think that their testimony doesn't matter, who think who's watching my testimony? It's the whole world's watching your testimony. Yeah. Your testimony matters.
Absolutely. Where do we start? Do we just start from the beginning?
Yeah, we'll start from the beginning.
You start from Dylan Clark's letter from Wisconsin.
Yes.
From Wisconsin.
Dylan Clark
from Wisconsin says that he's a child prodigy engineer.
Yes.
Who,
Jimmy Neutron.
Yes. And he says that his mom, I've got the transcript up, is gifted, and Larry has just come in with his new unicycle that
and telepathic powers apparently.
Yeah, because he says that this unicycle is going to make him rich and famous because he's going to be the best ukulele player. There's a unicycle ukulele, whatever.
Confusion.
Yeah. And he's like, what do I do with this gift? What do I do with the gift of being a child prodigy engineer?
What even is a gift? They ask.
Yeah.
And then they roll into a 50-minute movie that at first I'm like, are we going to do 12 hours of story in 50 minutes? Is that what we're going to
give us the director's cut, Phil Vischer.
This is
somewhere around the 5-minute mark. It became clear that they were taking. I mean, I knew that it would be done with vegetables, and therefore it would be a little different. But it takes on it, especially around like maybe because I would say like half of it is Fellowship, and then the second half is totally original, basically.
Yeah.
they kind of race towards the end.
They really dedicated themselves to the Shire, which is fine. I think for a child, that is the most exciting part. That's why The Hobbit came out first.
Or like when he starts singing about like when Bill Boy Baggy Pants starts his song at the birthday party.
Yeah.
I'm like, do we have time for a song? Do we have time for this?
I mean, that's what I ask myself every time I reread.
Every time you read the books.
Far over.
Yeah, they didn't do the bath song, but
No.
Or the dishes song.
Yeah.
So you have Archibald is Bill Boy.
Bill Boy.
You've got Junior as
Toto Baggy Pants.
Toto Baggy Pants, and my daughter exclaimed when we on this watch through. She was like, "I hate Junior." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "I don't like his voice. I don't like anything about him." I was like, "Oh wow." Okay.
I found Junior a little annoying as a child. Also, now I find him very endearing.
Yeah, I think he has a sweet little voice.
I think he's the perfect Toto.
Yeah.
The things that stick out to me about this adaptation is the lack of other hobbits, right? So so you get your Bill Boy, but you don't get your Pippin and your Merry and your Sam.
Like a Pippin-esque character at the beginning. And I will say, before I get way too ahead of myself, while I was disappointed at the lack of a Sam,
I feel like if you were to get Bob in there, he would be.
There should have been a Sam. However, given the ending, there is spiritually a Sam. So we kind of have a Sam presence in a way.
Well, if this was a story about friendship or something, or being there for somebody, then Sam would be essential. But since it's about your giftings, I think it's okay to like veer way off and just do their own thing.
Yeah, I went back and forth on that a little bit. Like I said at the end, I was like, okay, this is Sam's vision, so it's nice that Sam gets like a little shout out. And I was like, it could go back and forth. I feel like I said, not to jump ahead too much, but the Keebler elf could have possibly been replaced by a Sam.
But they were too committed to the Keebler elf joke. They're like, it's elves. We got it. And of course, the elvish impersonator, which
is incredible.
Absolutely destroyed me.
Fantastic.
So good.
The silly song is never part of the story, so this was a fun change up to have the silly song be.
I was, when I remember when I was a teenager and seeing VeggieTales, I was like, wow. So they're gonna solve the no hands problem by just making stuff float in front of them, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And Jean Grey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they all have Jean Grey powers. And I thought at first that worked pretty well, but then with this one I was like, oh man, he's gonna be having to hold a ring and hold swords, and there's gonna be a lot of holding stuff.
I loved at the beginning when he's got the unicycle and Bob's like, you don't reach the pedals.
How are you doing that?
Yeah.
And they had the whole thing about like you're twice as tall as when I last saw you, which is I think more of a book thing than a movie thing.
Well, because Merry and Pippin grow.
Right. So this is a little bit more of like a book adaptation, perhaps.
Yeah. There were little shout outs. There were little nuggets.
Well, and it has to move about as fast as the Bakshi movies.
Yeah.
Rocketing towards them.
Yeah.
Like I said, this felt more spiritually Bakshi than Jackson.
Yes. My biggest laugh was when they were staring when Randolph was staring at the bean for like a minute.
Yeah. That's it. My biggest laugh, I keep getting ahead. It's just, I'm very excited.
Just ahead, won't you?
The Eric Idle Eagle was
that was great.
so good.
That was good. See, they were having fun. It felt a little bit like a Mel Brooks movie to me, like a little bit of like whatever you can possibly parody, whatever wordplay you can possibly jump on top of.
When we've come into their parodies before, we've definitely compared it to Mel Brooks. This feels more like, if you're a huge Star Wars fan, this feels like watching Spaceballs.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It's got everything crammed. It's not a 1-for-1.
Yeah.
It's like
Like,
the
how about
only
Chewbacca's a dog?
Yeah.
It's that kind of joke.
the only 1-for-1 that Mel Brooks did was Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But
And you get the sense that with like Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles, you get the sense that and High Anxiety that Mel Brooks loves these movies.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But with Spaceballs, you get the sense that he liked Star Wars. Okay.
Yeah.
Or as far as I can tell, he like heard of it, and he made a movie based on that.
Yeah.
A friend of him just Colin Reiner saw Star Wars, described it to him, and then he made Spaceballs.
Yeah, well said. Although in a way, it kind of makes Spaceballs stand apart on its own more successfully.
Yeah.
Instead of being like a 1-to-1 parody,
This is like maybe it's more of like a Men in Tights. There's some source material. There's definitely some love of the source material.
Yeah, I loved when Mel Brooks asked George Lucas if it was okay to do Spaceballs. He said, "I don't mind as long as you don't make merchandise."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Lucas was so free and easy about that stuff back then, unlike Disney. I was in this. It's Center Earth instead of Middle Earth, which I'm like, what's the deal with that? Like, can we make a joke at least? Can we do like creamy Middle Earth or something? Or can we do a joke perhaps?
It's interesting what gets the parody name change treatment and what doesn't, because they still just call it the Shire.
No, they called it.
And you know what? My 8-year-old was like, why do they call it Center Earth? And I was like, well, it's probably a copyright thing. And she was like, then why do they call it the Shire? She had the exact same observation.
Well,
And
but
funnily enough,
also, so I think with the Tolkien estate, I think something like calling it the Shire, because the Shire is just what they would. That's more true from life. You would call it.
It is a generic term. There are lots of shires.
Yeah, there's lots of shires. The Shire is just generic. It's not necessarily like the Tolkien estate wouldn't be too upset about, say, you could call any place the Shire in England on the Shires.
Tolkien estate got upset at the Christian vegetable show.
Tolkien State didn't. New Line did.
Yeah.
Did they really?
Yes, really.
Yeah.
Supposedly, they had to pay New Line a little bit of money because they said the parody was a little too close.
And it was a very good parody. So there were
How does that even work?
The set design at the beginning was very close. And also they open it with the flame scene.
Bill Boy's house looks more or less exactly.
It does. Although I was like kind of hoping they would open it with, I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth.
I feel it in the water.
And I will say, shout out Kurt Heineke, friend of the podcast. Very good job
At doing the Howard Shore score.
getting close, kind of gesturing towards Howard Shore without exactly
mimicking it.
Yep. My kid was like, "Why? Oh, they got to use the same music though." I was like, "No,
No.
that's not Howard Shore." Do you think it's odd that the ring has been reconceptualized as a gift instead of a curse?
Well, that depends on what you do with it.
Right.
It depends on
It
who
could
you
be
ask.
a curse. You're right. Yeah.
Because according to some, like Boromir, it is a gift.
Right. I feel like that one line is what kind of gave them this whole idea.
Yeah.
It's a gift. And they're like, there it is. Giftings. They ended up, they went with Ephesians 2:10. And I thought for sure it was going to be the parable of the three servants with their burying their favor, which they could have also done. Because there's literally a line pretty early on that's like several times they're like, we wouldn't even blame you if you just buried it and left it in a box and put it underground. And I just kept thinking that parable was going to.
There's a lot of times where the verse at the end kind of leaves us like, huh. Because there's so many other things that they could have gone with. I would like to know more about the verse choosing process, the verse selection process. Because there are a lot of times where we're like, oh, here's like 5 other things that could have fit or that they could have gone with.
My guess is that they want it to fit on the computer screen, and they don't want to have to then because if you did the three servants, you'd have to kind of tell the whole story, and then they'd be making a second show.
There's other times where I almost wonder if they start with the verse.
Yeah.
I know they go with a child's letter for real.
Right.
They will find like an actual dilemma, but they will take like a friend or family member, or where a friend or family member lives, and use their name and place. I will say Phil Vischer did say that the verse at the end is like their last attempt to reiterate the moral in case you're like 4 and weren't paying attention.
Exactly.
Or just like something you can take home with you.
It has to be something pocketable. It has to be. Yeah, exactly.
Like that little nugget that you can kind of remember later on.
Yeah. And they used to, I mean, there are plenty of VeggieTales where they just do the Bible story, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
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 And some better than others.
Yeah.
The three servants would be a pretty good one, actually. I particularly love that one.
Yeah. Oh, they parables are definitely within the realm of doing.
Flipper Lou. You have the Good Samaritan.
Mm-hmm. Phil Vischer said his mother was a pioneer in kids ministry research. Mm-hmm. She told him rule number 1 is you will not portray Jesus as a vegetable.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've often thought about that. I'm like, another analogy or another example like that is the Berenstain Bears. That's a Christian book series. Nobody remembers it that way because in the 80s, like everything was like vaguely Christian, and prior. It was only by the 2000s that like if something said God or said Jesus that people were like, wait a minute. So I didn't even remember the Berenstain Bears having any Christian morals or anything all that explicit in it. And of course we were reading those to our kid for the last 8 years. And almost at the end they go out of their way to like quote scripture and stuff. I was like, I don't remember any of this. But there was an episode. There was a book. There was a book where I think it was the Christmas Story, and they were doing the Christmas pageant. And I was like, "Are we going to see Bear Jesus? Is that what's going to happen? Because everything's a bear." But no, they avoided the issue entirely. And that's the general principle. It was something I picked up on. Wisdom can't be given without work. That was in Hobbiton there. And my wife right away, she was like, "Can you pray for But we talk about praying for wisdom all the time. But there's also kind of this concept of like active faith that you can, that faith. The concept of faith is not laying on your back and being like God will show up. There's things are expected of you. But I think praying for wisdom or yielding for wisdom. Just an interesting note there. It was startling to see the Fellowship just show up.
Yeah, in Hobbiton.
That was the part of this where when they show up, I was like, why could we have just done The Hobbit? If you just want them to all show up at Hobbiton, if they're all just going to arrive at Bag End, but
he didn't have a gift, and it wasn't quite as marketable at the time.
That's
this was
true.
Made. Yeah. When did this come out?
2005.
Okay, so it's like right on the heels of
yeah.
And that if they did The Hobbit, all of the dwarves would have just been peas and carrots, and nobody wants that.
Yeah,
it would have been great.
Yeah, they show up, and I was like, when Paul Grapes Gimli is introduced,
Grumpy.
Grumpy.
Grumpy. So you have Ear of Corn. You have Eero Corn as as depicted by Larry.
Yeah.
Lego Lamb with Jimmy Gord. Yeah. And I think Grumpy, Paw Grape. Yeah. And then Randolph, of course.
Randolph, when he first says Randolph, I was like, that's ridiculous. And then the other elf who was just free that day.
Ernie Keebler by Jerry.
Yeah. The Grumpy being the most Jewish.
I was going to say.
So in college, I did a couple of Tolkien courses, and for one of them, my research paper for the class was about the Jewishness of the dwarves. So this was like,
well, Tolkien was pretty explicit about that, right?
Yeah, he was, and I almost went and dug up that paper that I did, but I was like, I can't go that deep in the archives.
And this is Paw Grape, the most Jewish
vegetable. Yeah, I was like,
there you go.
We're sticking
I doubt they thought of that, but maybe
they stuck to the tradition here. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Okay.
You've got your sporks as orcs, which of course is good wordplay, and they would be a natural threat to vegetables. And they could have just said forks, but they went just a little bit sillier, just a little bit.
Oh, it's perfect. When I was watching that for the first time, I started cackling, and I made my partner watch that scene because I was like, guess what? the orcs are. And he was like, rotten vegetables. I was like, no. no.
Something far worse.
Yeah, something far worse. And he was like, a baked good. I was like, closer, but no.
I love even
Something forged in Isengard.
Yeah.
I love even Toto is like, what kind of vegetable?
Oh, they're not vegetables.
No, vegetables.
And then they come out of the like waffle iron. David Portnoy Scallion, a scary man watching on like, ooh, my spokes.
Yeah, there's no Sauron proxy in this.
I kind of
just Saruman,
understand.
Scary man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can understand consolidating.
Yeah, for sure. We
can't
got
have
50 minutes, folks.
Two villains and yeah.
I'm sure in multiple adaptations they would try that didn't end up getting made. They did try to consolidate Saruman and Sauron to the point where even in the Bakshi version they dropped the S in Saruman because they sounded too similar.
Yeah.
Automan.
Yeah.
Was it?
But don't they sometimes say Saruman? Which
Yes,
really
they do.
Yeah.
It just slips in.
They're just like, leave it and it's fine.
Yeah. So I guess Toto's first trial is that Grumpy wants to he wants to use the bean to make burritos.
Yes.
And Toto doesn't want to use his gift before he knows why he has
So the bean, we go on, Randolph tells the tale of the beans and how they came to be, and you have the 4 or 5 magic beans, and he goes through what they were meant for.
One bean could make clothing, one bean could make food, one bean could make designer clothing. Or no, kitchen appliances.
Yeah, they're all just different parts of the Enterprise. You've got one that's a holodeck, one that's a replicator. And then you have the one bean that's like the bean to rule them all that can make kitchen appliances, makes you taller, does everything you want. So when he goes and he sees Billboy is really tall and he's got, his espresso machine, and Randolph is suspicious. This is Gandalf, telling Bilbo that he looks very young and he hasn't aged a day. I wonder what's keeping you so spry. And your wealth is still preserved. So this is the child vegetable friendly version with the kitchen appliances, and I think it's something like it's good because it's something so tangible, because these are things kids want. I think kids don't necessarily understand power in the way that Tolkien is trying to like express power, because it's like political power and it's like very a child, like I definitely didn't fully understand it when I started to love Lord of the Rings. Like that didn't necessarily make a ton of sense to me, but I grew up with anarchists, so like I didn't like fully understand what that like truly meant. But to have it just be like, oh yeah, can make, and I think most kids can like empathize with that and like really understand that and be like, oh, I wish I had something that made everything that we wanted. That'd be so cool. I think that's why like little kids love Harry Potter so much, is because in that world you can just like make things appear, So you have the espresso machine, all these like adult desires that kids can totally understand. And
toys and clothes.
Just like pop up in. And again, this is Phil Fisher's like anti-capitalistic venture at work, right? Being like, no, all of these material goods are not necessarily good. You can have them, that's okay, but when you can just get them on a whim, like that's when that overconsumption becomes evil and can.
Yeah, I think it's important. Just to draw. You mentioned George Lucas earlier. He does this cool speech on YouTube or that you can find on YouTube. About the difference between happiness and joy. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like at the heart of this, which is the sort of the deep happiness, the joy where you feel, and I think like philosophically, joy is found in purpose. And that's probably kind of what's at the heart of this whole, like when your giftings are used for their purpose, which like without a divine influence, that sentence makes no sense. Who determines what the purpose of those things is? But yeah, when you walk in your purpose, that's where you find true joy, as opposed to an espresso machine. And so it just continues to be more and more true, where it's like there are more buttons every year that you can press to get you whatever you want. There's really no end to getting the thing that you need satiated immediately. And yet we have I feel in my lifetime, I feel like there's more people with mental health struggles than there's ever been.
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to how lonely we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, you can't. There's yeah, right. So like joy is found in. I have this theory, or I don't know if it's a theory, but this thing that I say. That I think that for like a sound mind and a life of purpose, you kind of need a couple things. And if you don't have one of these things, I think things are dysfunctional for you, and you'll be like chasing the solution. One is when you get up in the morning. I'll just make it visceral. When you get up in the morning, you have a project. You're like, oh, I have to go do the, like maybe you even feel like a little bit busy and a little bit overwhelmed. You're like, oh, okay, I got to do this and this and this, and this person's waiting on me, right? So that immediacy, that urgency is like something, something to go do. That means that like that there's a responsibility. But that sense right when you wake up in the morning, you're like, what time is it? Okay, at 10 o'clock, this has to happen, right? And then I think you need to be surrounded by people, or you need to have at least a small network of people that care whether or not those things happen. That care whether or not, that if you went away for 3 days, they'd be like, what happened to Frankie? Let me text him. I haven't seen him in a while. Just somebody who's kind of like invested in you continuing. I think if you have those two things, like you'll probably be mentally well. Or you sure have a great shot at it.
Yeah, I've something I've noticed, like especially the last couple of weekends, like the last 3 weekends I've had, one doing the podcast, like, we have our friends over, Fina comes over to my house and we get to like, and it's the thing that I look forward to the most in the week. And, I've had like a couple of friends drop by the last few weeks. People happen to have been in town. And I've noticed that the weekends where, we have a guest, when we have someone coming in, some of the, when I've got visitors, we've got friends, when we go see family, those are the weekends that I feel, one, I haven't wasted. I feel the most refreshed, but I've also noticed I spend less money.
Yeah.
And the weekends where I was sick a couple of weeks and, had to skip, and I felt very isolated. And I was like,
it's like not getting your exercise or not eating right or something.
And I was like, I gotta go buy a mop. Like, I gotta go do something to get that like get that dopamine hit that I normally get from community.
And if you really want to feel great, I just pose those two things of like the sort of the company that you keep that keeps you accountable and that mission that you have to be on every day. If you really want to feel great, combine those two things and accomplish something novel, accomplish something great with people that you care about. Yeah. Then you'll feel, you'll feel like $1 million. And I think that's why like church communities are so crucial, because it's one of the few institutions that I can think of where there is a common value system that everybody has agreed to before stepping foot inside the place. You know what I mean? And of course, that's not to say that everybody's consistent in their belief or there's not chafing and whatever. But, school doesn't necessarily guarantee that. Your workplace certainly doesn't guarantee that, that you're all operating under the same set of assumptions, right? And so I think, when it's like, all right, well, now there's going to be a group for people who are trying to lose weight, or people, women who lost their husbands, or alcoholism, whatever. It's like, it's putting into action kind of what I'm describing. So what's that got to do with VeggieTales?
Welcome to the show.
We'll tie it back in. Yeah, I call it the belabor union. But yeah, I was gonna say there's I had 20 thoughts in my head all at once. I'm so sorry. I was like, which one do I want to go with? I can't find my notes. My notebook is somewhere. It was moved. I think Yvonne has it at work. So,
I don't have my Raspberry Forest. I think
we are at the Raspberry Forest. When they said not that kind of raspberry, it was like, oh, there's some Phil Vischer magic about to happen.
That's getting good.
So we get the Wizard of Oz Ents.
Hey, what are you doing?
Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how many fantasy stories feature talking trees. It feels
VeggieTales quite heavily.
Yeah. VeggieTales, if no one else.
Yeah. I know that in Narnia the trees were alive but didn't speak, but they were alive.
I think it's very much a trope, and I'm sure that this goes back to, there's trees in every folk tradition of like massive importance. Torah is a tree. The Jewish people are a tree. There's the world tree. Like trees are extremely important. And I'm sure that if we look back in fairy stories, I know we talked about druids not that long ago, but I know that the trees do have spirits of some sort in a lot of folk tradition, especially like Nordic, Celtic tradition. So, and Tolkien was so heavily inspired by the fairy stories of Wales and Ireland that this is like,
trees are probably like the fundamental analogy for life that's not just human life, right?
Yeah, life in nature and
yeah. And I mean, if you go out in the woods and spend enough time around trees, there's a presence. Like, there's definitely, in modern research, and we know about like the mycelium networks, and like there's an energy off of them. So I think like that tree trope, now that we bring it up, is probably extremely deep. Tolkien, as creative and wonderful as he was, at the end of the day, and he admitted it himself, he didn't create anything. So the trees being like kind of the Wizard of Oz tree and kind of tying it all together, I thought was really nice. And I was a little torn about the and creatures, the trees being like a little evil, but it worked, I guess.
It felt like Wizard of Oz in as much as the raspberrying of the Fellowship was kind of like chucking apples at them or something.
Yeah. And but we have from episode 1 on, we had an Ent counter for a little bit. We kind of lost track of it, but it's kind of, I think
talking trees and VeggieTales, yeah.
Yeah, there were like Ent creatures, and they were talking moving trees in at least the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, I definitely remember the second episode, that shot of the tree coming to life and running down the hill into the lake, just like Quick Beam at Isengard. And then you have the river.
Yeah, and then you have
oh my gosh, that entire scene. I remember I told it on my podcast not long ago, but I remember I was 16 when I saw Two Towers. I was in love with Fellowship. I kind of became I enjoyed it in theaters, but excuse me, I kind of fell in love with it on DVD actually because of the special features and everything. And then by the time Two Towers came out, I was just a freak for it. I was like, I cannot wait to see this movie. And I was driving my 92 Subaru with a friend, and we broke down at like some gas station like a mile away from the theater, and we just leaped out of the car and ran as fast as we could, not unlike Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn.
Speed, yeah.
Hot pursuit. And there were, back then you really didn't get your tickets in advance. So we bought it at the door, and we sat in the only seats left were the very front row. And I remember sitting down just as the snowy mountainscape was like exploding onto the screen and being like, oh my God. And then for the next 3.5 hours or however long the theatrical cut of that movie is, from, the last stand of the Rohirrim to, Saruman's army to the end, last march of the Ents. I was just like, what's going on?
I'm sure the last march of the Ents and the release of The River, I think front row in the theater, I might cry.
I'd be overwhelmed.
I cry when we watch it on our 65 inch.
It really moved me. And and it was on 35 millimeter film, which not to romanticize that too much, but it is different. It really is.
Oh yeah.
I became a believer when I saw Oppenheimer. In 70 mil film.
Right. Totally. It's interesting. I heard something recently about how there's only like 4 70 mil projector IMAX theaters like in the country. There's like 4 of them.
It's crazy.
And Nolan makes his entire movie from start to finish so that they can so it will screen properly in those 4 theaters.
Yeah. But the and character with the jewel also, as much as I was kind of like, this is a wild deviation. At the same time, it does take a lot of Tolkien's concepts and plot points, and it worked. It worked. I was fine with it.
Lord of the Rings is a vehicle here. It's not we're not trying to square any, he's not trying to do like, as a matter of fact, I have the DVD. And so we popped on the special features, and the first thing they say in the behind the scenes documentary is like, well, we knew we weren't going to make Lord of the Rings. So we just immediately said, all right, well, like, what's the central idea here? It's the gift, and let's just focus on that. And they mentioned just a little trivia for you. They said that in a standard VeggieTales episode, they really try not to exceed 10 digital sets. and they knew they were going to with all the traveling and everything in this, and so they reused a lot of old sets from old shows just to make this happen.
Oh yeah, there were a few in there. It was like that was from Duke and the Pirate War.
Like that mountaintop, and right.
Yeah. But
that looks like a Minnesota Cuke mountaintop.
Yes, yeah, it did. But the jewel, I think too, like if we're translating this for children, is something that's like tangible and like you can see physically, like the representation of greed and corruption, and that makes sense.
Yeah,
if you're a child watching it, so it's like it was effective. I was trying so hard to just like watch it for what it was and like let go the part of my brain that's an obnoxious nerd about Tolkien and
knock it off.
I was like,
when you get to the
vegetables.
Yeah.
I was like, don't. And when he was like, Randolph, son of, and I was like, first of all, Gandalf was son of no one because he is sorry, we're not born.
He was there in the beginning.
I was like, shut up, Liz, shut up. And then I was like, Gandalf wasn't so much born as he fell out. And I was like, I'm gonna write Gandalf being lost in the supermarket as some sort of poem someday.
I got to ask you, and I'm not trying to start any fights, okay? Not in your podcast, but what do you think of Rings of Power? I'm not trying to start any fights.
I think it was a lot like watching Lord of the Beans.
You're like, what? Excuse me. What is this?
It was a lot like watching Lord of the Beans.
Except a lot less Christian.
My partner is, he loves the films. He has never read the books. I am such a massive. We have an entire wall dedicated to my Lord of the Rings memorabilia.
Oh, there are copies of the book everywhere.
Yeah, I have all of our Lord of the Rings magic cards framed. Like we've got signed pictures. We got our swords.
When did you get into Tolkien? Like what age?
I think I was 10.
How were you introduced?
One of my friends said something about the films coming out, and I was like, "What is that?" And I was an aggressive. I took pride in being a reader as a child. That was my identity.
Yep.
And I was a wild library kid.
Yep.
And I loved I had read a lot of Ursula Le Guin. I'd read some C.S. Lewis. Read all the Harry Potter books.
Which also have talking trees.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a talking tree.
Yeah. I read a bunch of fantasy. Loved a lot of sci-fi. Loved Star Trek as a child.
Just a born, just a dyed in the wool.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Yeah. So.
It's okay.
And when they said, "Oh, there's this movie coming out," I was like, "Oh, and there's a book. I have to read the book." And everyone was like, "Oh, and it's going to be really exciting. This Lord of the Rings thing." And I was like, "I'm going to read the book." And I was a child who did not understand a word of it, but
that's a big wall to climb.
Yeah, I was like, I'm still going to climb that wall. I might not know what I'm reading, but I am going to read it. So I read through. I went and I got the trilogy in one book. It was like several thousand pages.
No,
because it was big print. Because it was like,
a door stopper.
Yeah. And I forced myself to read it. My family took a road trip from San Francisco to Lake Tahoe, and I read it the entire way there and back. So
there and back again.
Yeah. And I was familiar with The Hobbit.
Alyssa's Tale.
Yeah. I was familiar with The Hobbit, and then, the movies came out. I saw the movies. And then took kind of a break from it because I was like, I need to wait. I think I was too young to understand it, but I loved the visuals of the films. I loved the way that they made me feel. I loved the aesthetics. Yeah. It was so fascinating to me. And growing up in the Jewish tradition, you're so used to hearing the Torah story, not fully understanding it. One, because it's in a different language, literally, and then you have to go into all of the commentary and like deep dive, and then you got to like study it. So like a challenging text with much more underlying is kind of like what I was born into. So it was like
what I'm all about.
And when I turned 11, I was like, all right, we're going to do this again. We're going to start over. We're going to do it again. And from the time I was 11 up until now, just like reading Torah every year, I read the trilogy every year.
You still read the Torah every year?
Also Lord of the Rings.
I guess I'm asking, you mentioned are you still practicing Judaism? Like
I do it in my own way. I try to keep up with I'll look at the Parsha for the week. I'll try to like touch base. And I usually do that when I'm doing research for this show. And doing the show has definitely been a nice way to kind of like keep tabs on like, oh, wait, what's this week's Parsha? Where are we at in the cycle? I'll still try and like keep up with like Dov Torah.
They don't do too many of the Gospels, right? I mean, not, I mean, just in terms of volume. I mean, I suppose most of VeggieTales would cross over between our faiths.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I got into VeggieTales because I had a youth rabbi who would just be like, "Here's Daniel's story from VeggieTales." So
I just saw that Daniel movie, by the way. It's very, very good.
I've heard good things
yeah,
about
it looks pretty
It's
interesting.
great. I probably would not talk about it on my podcast because it probably wouldn't get watched. but first of all, the animation was actually like, I mean, was it Pixar? Not quite, but it was. I heard that it was the largest crowdfunded movie of all time.
Huh.
And it was $50 million. And it's got a pretty good like first, second, and third act. They don't add in like a stupid animal sidekick and undermine the whole thing, but it's like exciting and the music is very good. It's very, very good.
We can add it to our post VeggieTales curriculum. Yeah.
Actually, it made me wonder. I was like, is this a Jewish movie or is this a Christian movie? Like, in terms of who funded it or who made it happen. It turned out it was a Christian movie.
Yeah, I like like with Prince of Egypt, they consulted, experts on all three of our Abrahamic faiths to like really make sure that the story right, which was like why it's one of the best films of all time. But
I've been watching so much All in the Family lately. Ever since Rob Reiner died, I started like watching a few clips and then I started getting inundated by all. I don't know how much of All in the Family you guys have seen, but obviously that Archie is this like horrible racist.
Oh yeah,
take it. And like so much so, I'm like, I better watch this with headphones.
Yeah.
But there's in the first episode, he's being teased by the next door neighbor who's black for because Archie was saying like, oh, I work with these Jewish guys down at the construction site.
yeah.
And he's like, well, I see you're talking with your hands a lot, Archie. Are you Jewish? And he's like, no, I'm not. And of course he's like repulsed by the idea. And they said, well, wait a minute. Who did you say? What did you say your parents' names were? Wasn't it David and Sarah? And he goes, yeah, my parents are named David and Sarah. So what? Those names are from the Bible, and the Bible ain't got nothing to do with no Jews.
We turned the video off so you can't see me talking with my hands.
The Bible ain't got nothing to do with no Jews.
Rings of Power, my partner hasn't read the books, and he hadn't read the Silmarillion, whatever. So we're watching it, and I had done like a little bit of background about it. They couldn't get rights to the Third Age and everything, and I think it's visually very striking. It was entertaining.
Yeah. It's certainly the first few episodes, and they built incredible stuff. Yeah, right.
We're watching it, and my partner was like he's like, I think that's Sauron. I think that's, and I was like, I think you're onto something. I think you might have. I don't know. And I was like,
that it is.
And at the end, when he was like, see, I told you, I was like, I'm not going to tell this man right now that I've read the Silmarillion 10 times.
Yeah. Wow. So you've read the Silmarillion as though it were a book.
I read it like
she's far in.
I read it more like a midrash for for the Parsha. Yeah.
I can see like flipping through the Silmarillion, but
the first like 5 times I read it, I was like, what is happening? I took a couple of classes in college on Tolkien, and then when I discovered the Tolkien professor and his podcast, he does a Silmarillion companion show. He does film, but he also does a read through of the Silmarillion where he breaks everything down, and he'll spend like 4 hours on each chapter. So I read the Silmarillion alongside the Tolkien professor's deep dive on the Silmarillion and was like able to put it all together and figure out, okay, here's everything. So if anyone's interested in deep dive reading the Silmarillion and having it actually make sense, the Tolkien Professor's podcast is free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
You were going to say, we're starting a new podcast. It's called...
No.
We're going to painstakingly go through the Silmarillion.
Yeah, no, but he does a walkthrough. He'll hold your hand through it, explain all the characters, all their relationships. It is really good work. It's really easy to listen to. He's a really good speaker. And it'll make a lot of sense. So that was a great companion. Really opened up my eyes to more. The more I read the Silmarillion, the more I read Lord of the Rings, because I do it every single January starting on the 3rd, because that's Tolkien's birthday is when I start my cycle all over again. and reread it, the more I see Torah in Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion, which is
Oh, that's cool.
not to say that it has replaced Torah. I think they are beautifully compatible. And the more I am able to dig out the lessons and really see, I think Tolkien would respect that, as a man of faith
course.
himself.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it's so, every single time that I read it, the more I dig out characters from Torah in the Silmarillion. And the thing that I love about the Silmarillion, when you compare it kind of to reading Torah, is that, again, which I feel like we talk about this every episode, the characters are messy. And there's not necessarily a clear-cut lesson to be learned in the Silmarillion. The Lord of the Rings is very black and white, good and evil. The Silmarillion is not. It's very chaotic. It's very
Relativistic.
Kind of like Greek
Yeah.
myth.
Yeah,
These
it's got
characters are
the
mythical.
Torah cycle
They have like the flawed heroes.
vibes. Yeah. You got very flawed heroes. Like Torinbar and Job are so similar. And like you have all of these characters that are just like so directly inspired by Torah. And it was really interesting when I did my research paper in college, learning that Tolkien did translate the book of Jonah from the Hebrew as just kind of like a project, just kind of like for fun, to like learn more about Hebrew myth, which did help inspire him to write the dwarves the way that they're written. So like there is that really deep Torah connection between the two. So like
That's cool.
seeing the Lord of the Beans, this feels so true to Tolkien's project. So that was another reason why I was able to kind of like remove the Lord of the Rings aspect of it and just watch it for what it is, because I think Tolkien's story, you can put, as long as you've got a deeply rooted Torah lesson in the message, it's going to be, even if the characters are messed around with and you've got a Keebler elf, there's still that like
The
Tolkien
heart is preserved.
yeah, there's still that like heart of it, that Tolkien heart in it. And the bean being kind of this gift, at the end of the day, like, yes, the ring is a curse, but that curse can also be a gift. And at the end of the day,
Kind of
Frodo,
like power itself.
right? Like Frodo's gift is that, he liberates Middle Earth and he's able to save what he loves, even though he did have to carry this burden, because sometimes a gift is a burden,
Yeah.
I wanted more than anything to see the look on your face
Mm-hmm.
when Mr. Lunt as Ahem appeared, because I knew she was like, I'm thinking Liz has got to be thinking, who's going to be Gollum? Who's going to be what VeggieTales character? It's like the Muppets when you cast the Muppets in a movie and keep it human, but like which VeggieTales character is going to be Gollum? And just to see,
That was
Mr. Lunt.
yeah. When he said,
Yeah.
"I am named for the noise that I make in my throat." That was good.
my precious.
That was very good.
Gollum's another one where since she was little, like somehow that character just enchants my daughter. I think in general, like Gollum is just one of those like, poster characters.
Yeah.
For some reason. Even though like he could be, I mean, he has been depicted in a very like obnoxious, off-putting way. But certainly the way Andy Serkis brings him to life. Yeah. I mean, by the time you get to the Hobbit with Martin Freeman, it's like, that's, not the best set of movies in the world. Although the fan cut where they reduce it down to like 4 hours, that's pretty darn watchable. Because there's a lot of good stuff in there. You just got to crunch it down.
Yeah, I saw the first one in theaters, and then I didn't bother with the other two and saw the fan edit to kind of.
Walked out of the second one.
What caused Liz Brody to walk out of The Hobbit?
I don't even remember the scene that set me off. I genuinely don't remember, but I was like, I'm not doing this, and I walked out.
I've never fully walked out of a movie. The closest I came to walking out of a movie was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. When he said "Save Martha," the "Save Martha" made me I almost walked out.
I remember with Batman versus Superman, there's like the big funeral scene at the end of the movie with, where Superman dies. And sorry guys, I got a frog. They call me a hem. And it literally felt like a funeral because like everybody in the theater just stood up and kind of solemnly left. Going, that sucked.
The only time I walked out of The Hobbit, I almost walked out of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Yeah, okay. The second
Fair
one.
enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't as good as the book.
Nope.
So Mr. Lunt comes along. He doesn't do much. They just kind of had him. Well, he used the bean to make candy and marshmallows, and then he passed out in a sugar coma.
Yeah.
and it was gone.
Poor Spiegel.
Oh.
Oh, poor Spiegel.
Bean.
Yeah, this is the part of the episode where the Lord of the Rings through line is kind of severed.
Well, no, because Mr. Lunt's Spiegel was, I think, very close to Gollum. I think they did.
He said I used to be a flobbit like you, and
Well, he did used to be a flobbit, but also Gollum, right? When he's Smeagol and he acquires the ring and he craves the power and he turns his back on his family and the ring destroys him. The ring turns him into Gollum. So having Mr. Lunt's character, the Spiegel, get everything he wants, while Gollum doesn't necessarily get everything he wants, he does get to have the ring corrupts him horrifically. And Spiegel is corrupted by the bean and he becomes a hem. So like, I think if you were trying to describe Gollum, if you were trying to explain Gollum to a child in terms that they could understand, I think going the route of he ate all the candy he wanted and it made him sick is a pretty decent way to explain that. I think the corruption of
My kid is just like, he's a drug addict, isn't he?
yeah, basically.
He does crack, doesn't he, Dad?
Yeah,
Put the candy aside.
Gollum's basically an addict for the ring and it destroys him. So having that character just be, you know, like I want the ring back because I want everything and I don't want to work and I don't want to do anything. I think one, again, kind of like gives us a lot of that Phil Vischer insight into the way that he feels about overconsumption and we love that. We love that about him.
Frankie, if you can take one recommendation from us, it is listen to Phil Vischer's podcast. It is the best Christian podcast.
Yeah, it's good.
It's called The Holy Post.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is he has a lot of great guests and two great co-hosts in Sky Jatani and
it's definitely you recommended it to me at a point in my life where I realized I was kind of creating my own echo chamber with the podcast that I was listening to. And I was like, I need to hear some voices that carry different opinions from mine that I can still like listen to and respect. And I started listening to The Holy Post, and I think I usually rotate like 10 different shows. But listening to The Holy Post is the one where I'm like, this is the time, like, you know, the media that I can consume where I can disagree with this person very respectfully and challenge my own thoughts in a way.
What's the major line of disagreement with Phil Vischer?
I tend to agree with Phil Vischer pretty exclusively. Sky Jatani has a lot of viewpoints for me that are not, you know, we don't have the same viewpoints on several things. You know, and
politics.
Sky is more, I would say, more moderate
yes,
than either of us.
He's definitely more moderate. He's definitely has different politics, but the beautiful thing about the show is he has different politics from Caitlin Chess and Phil Vischer. And the way that they're able to have very thoughtful, respectful conversations about it leaves you feeling like you did learn something from that disagreement, which is so hard to find in today's media landscape. Like,
true.
And Sky is very, very insightful.
Yes. I have read several of his books now, thanks to Rufino, and I recommend them to people. I think they're fantastic books. They're fantastic reads. And I like that I get to chapters in them where I'm like, I don't know. But it's okay. It's totally fine.
My number one Sky Jatani book recommendation, I actually brought Liz a copy today because I had an extra one, is called With. Mm-hmm. And it's with the subtitle is Reimagining How We Relate to God. And it's a fascinating way to kind of illustrate how we should relate to God and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I think outside of What If Jesus Was Serious About Justice, this is probably my favorite Sky Jatani book.
Oh, yes. Yeah. What If Jesus Is Serious? The first one I loved because it was a line-by-line deconstruction of the Sermon on the Mount. Mm-hmm. So he goes into detail about every single line of it. It's not a terribly long book, but I read it in one sitting, but it was very insightful.
Yeah. I'm really, that whole What If Jesus Was Serious About group of books is excellent. And, I'm not a Christian, but reading it just as somebody interested in theology in general was absolutely worth the read.
Cool.
If anyone out there is interested.
Yeah.
I wanted to hit you with when we were watching Two Towers. Again, she's not a toddler, but she's still young. She's 8.
Yeah.
She leans over to me and she goes, "I think that Gollum is on drugs, and he's depressed that he's on drugs, but the drugs give him like a little bit of strength and make him forget about his problems, even though they're the cause of his problems in the first place."
It's very insightful.
Yeah.
I was like, "Damn, kid,
That's very insightful. Yeah.
that's exactly right."
Yeah.
Out of the
You
mouth
didn't
of
even need a
babes.
candy and marshmallow analogy to get that one.
Well, it's like
But, I think it speaks to the power of these movies, where
Yeah.
like, you can even a young audience member can be like, "Oh, this is really." Maybe that's I'm sure that is the thing that compels us about Gollum is his malevolence is kind of like it's only a symptom of the fact that he's tormented. Right.
And that's like Gandalf's whole speech to Frodo about needing to pity Gollum, and you need to have pity for him, and you need to have mercy on him because you don't understand what his role is. And at the end of the day, like Frodo did not have the strength to destroy the ring, and he wouldn't have been able to do it without Gollum. So like
Also, I think the reason that they keep Gollum around is to be a reminder of what Frodo could become.
Oh,
if
yeah, absolutely.
If they fail in this mission.
Yeah, no, Gollum's so important. And I think as a child, I also, I agreed with Frodo. I was like, why don't you just kill Gollum? And Gollum is a stand-in for so many people in our lives. Like, why we need to have pity for certain people. And Gandalf is also like, even pity isn't the right word.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to have
Sympathy.
Yeah, he's like, you don't need to have pity on him, but you need to understand that could be you. And how would you feel if that was you? It is Gandalf teaching Frodo a very important lesson in empathy.
And yet, Sam does not.
Sam's like,
he
we need
actually
to get
never
rid of
kind of
this
goes
thing.
there. So like, Frodo empathizes with Gollum. I think especially in Two Towers, where he's like, you know what? If I can save this guy, then I can save myself.
Yeah.
Which I think you see in like, alcoholics groups and stuff like this, where it's like, well, maybe if I can save this guy, or, then maybe there's hope for me. There's some of that going on. But Sam, he never actually. Sam is waiting for permission from Frodo to tie this guy up and murder him the whole time. And I think it is just because he was like laser focused on like, my responsibility, my duty is to Frodo. Yeah. And this guy like only ultimately means him harm, much the way like a drug dealer would mean your friend harm, Yeah, so it's funny. It's like, I wonder what Gandalf would say to Sam about that.
But Sam also has the, wisdom and patience to respect Frodo's wishes, and he manages to do that the whole time. Even when he has the ring, he hands it back to Frodo.
Right. So maybe he didn't need it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
What else happened in this vegetable?
The well. There was a well.
There's a well.
In the land of woe.
We go to the land of woe, which is our
Mordor. I guess
like Mordor. It's almost Gondor-y.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think it is a good visual representation because you have the lush green Shire, and then you have the barren, empty land of woe, where everybody's. And the thing that was like really striking to me, where it was like, yes, this is a wild deviation, but it works really well. Again, when translating this for a child, you see how lush and green and happy and prosperous the Shire is, then you see the desperation of the land of woe, and the fact that the people at the well are saying that we're hungry and that we're thirsty, and that's physical and tangible, and kids can understand, I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. And that's when Toto is able to use the bean to create, life within the land of woe, and it's lush and green, which again, when Sam has the ring, he envisions Mordor and subsequently all of Middle-earth blooming into this beautiful, lush green garden. He pictures roses on Mount Doom, and he pictures this like fervent, like lush garden that he can garden forever and take care of the world. And that's his vision with the ring. So that's why I was like, you get you spiritually get Sam in this. Sam's vision with the ring becomes Toto's gift, and he's able to create food for these people. And
I wonder if the writers knew that, or if it just kind of worked out that way.
I feel like whoever wrote this knew.
Phil Vischer.
Yeah.
Phil. Yeah.
This is a Phil Vischer one.
Phil Vischer's another dyed-in-the-wool nerd. I mean, you're getting Monty Python references from show one. So.
Yeah.
So like like I said, somebody I nodded a lot. It was like Sam is here. Sam is alive. Like this is Sam's vision.
How did you like your David Portnoy Scallion as Scary Man?
I think he did great. I love Portnoy Scallion villains. So
I liked when Toto was like, I'm supposed to do something here. There's kind of like a Holy Spirit concept there, I thought.
Oh yeah, being kind of compelled by that still small voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this little GPS,
Yeah. And I think Junior as Toto as Frodo was so perfect because he's so small and he's just kind of like, I don't know. He's like unsure.
Right.
And he's not the largest character. He's not confident. He doesn't really know. His moral compass isn't developed fully. Like he's still just kind of like, I think I need to do this. I don't really know where I'm going. I do not know the way.
Works well for like as you're discovering your gifts as a child.
Yeah. Or as a 30-year-old.
Like Frodo.
What's the point of them? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very much I was talking to one of my friends today about like, we were just reminiscing about art school and how, being in college as young artists, it felt so it was difficult. We didn't know what to do, and there's a lot of pressure. I remember I went to an arts high school, and basically and I had a wonderful time. It's a wonderful school, but there was a lot of pressure to basically just be famous. Like you're just going to be famous when you leave here. You're going to do great things, and you're going to be
a great point. Yep.
Amongst the famous alumni. And if you're not a successful famous artist, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And I personally I stopped writing after a while. Like it just felt like, what's the point of this? Like who am I writing this for? Who am I writing stories for? Who am I writing poems for? Who am I making art for? Who am I painting for? And my friend and I used to exchange art pieces all the time. I've got a lot of her art hanging up in my hallway. She's got a lot of my art. And today was the first time we exchanged art in a long time. And I ripped out some pieces from a sketchbook. And I was like, I never thought this would see the light of day. And it's dumb and it's bad. And it annoyed me. It annoyed me drawing in the sketchbook because it's not what my art used to be. And no one's going to see it. And it doesn't matter. And I didn't even enjoy drawing this that much. But it gave her so much joy. And she was like, I love this piece. It was just a drawing of a little monster. And she was like, this is incredible. I'm going to frame this in my house. And I was like, this is what we do art for.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to focus on that aspect of it and the community of it and understanding that my dumb little monster drawings are going to make somebody smile when they go to our house.
I would say it's about it's transmission and receiving the I want to express. I'm divinely inspired to express myself, and I want to connect with like-minded people or people who want to receive that connection.
Yeah.
It's really just about that. So I think you can pursue art, in an individual kind of lonely way, actually. I think you can refine your craft, or you can sometimes, journaling, whatever. I think that's all fine. But in general, it does involve an audience. But that audience can be one person, and it can transform one person's life. Even if it didn't even reach any other eyeballs. So,
and it's so different just sitting at the table exchanging art than again going back to the classroom and being like, oh, you're never going to be successful, you're never going to make it, and just feeling this black and white doom and gloom.
On YouTube, it's funny. People will be like, nobody's ever heard, we get haters sometimes, not too many, not too bad, but we once, enough that it knocks on your self-esteem if you let it. But nobody knows who you are, this kind of thing. And I'm like, well, the videos get about 5,000 views per upload. And we're uploading and I think I'm like, well, so then what's the number where it's now you're valid? If we agree that 5 views is, underperforming, and we think 5,000 is underperforming, and then like I'm sure in some circles 50,000 is underperforming and 500,000 is underperforming. It's like what are these, like what is it all relative to?
Right.
And asking the question of why did I make this is kind of like the answer to that question.
And in this like modern American society where everything's commodified and you have to be the commodity, like even if you're making videos that one person loves, like that should be enough.
It totally is. Yeah,
And
it is for me.
The metrics, like it's hard for me to like tell myself, don't look at the metrics for the show. Just enjoy making the show.
Yeah.
I do, and I just remind myself the handful of people that listen to this ask if we skip a week.
Yes.
They DM us and they're like, "Are you guys okay?"
Yeah.
And I bet however many people do that keeps the show, like that gives the show like some wind in your sails.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please, if you have a question or comment, email us at havewegotashow4youpodcasts@gmail.com.
Well, it's a great point. It's like sometimes, you'll be watching something that's like has modest viewership and you never think to comment. You never think to reach out. It's like, hey man, that could make that creator's day, just to know that like there's somebody on the other end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love YouTube stuff, especially with high production values, but not necessarily huge viewerships.
Well,
Hi, welcome
you're gonna love
welcome to Red Cow
Boxmack.
Entertainment. But I did, and I will reach out to, especially if I see a ton of effort on display. I love reaching out to creators and being like, "Keep doing what you're doing. Please don't. What you do is great.
Yeah.
I look forward to your uploads."
That's so nice.
Yeah. I've definitely been on a personal mission this year to, if somebody that I follow is posting their art, trying to either like reach out and comment on it, or if I can buy a piece, trying to buy pieces. And it's been nice. It's been a nice thing. I'm like, it feels nice to look at somebody's actual art, somebody's authentic art, and all of the time and energy that I put into Magic cards, I can also put into somebody else's art, But so yeah, no, Toto's gift. Toto's gift.
Well, ultimately, right, in a children's movie, it has to be like you use your gift in service of others, which of course in the faith it's like in service of God, but God is like he wants nothing more than to be with his people, right? So it's like I think it works well here.
If you fed and clothed the stranger, the least of these, you fed and clothed me.
Thank you. We needed some scripture.
Yeah.
Michael to the rescue.
Yeah, no, also, like I think about the other little. We've been talking about Miriam lately, and it's about to be Passover season. But how Miriam, when she was the first to cross the Red Sea with the other women, they played their tambourines, and there was some talk about how there's maybe that was like silly or childish, and people were like, how can you just like head first into the sea and then you were singing, and it was. But that was like the expression of joy that felt appropriate at the moment. And who cares that it was like spur of the moment? She was probably playing like jazz, who knows? But like that was the gift that gave people courage to cross with her. Like, look how joyous I am. I'm playing music as I'm crossing through. And we talked about Hannah's prayer last week and how her gift was just like, I'm feeling this fully and I'm gonna just like I'm gonna let my spirit be full. And that's my faith right now is my gift. And you can like poo-poo on it all that you want, but that's not going to diminish my experience.
It's a good lesson.
Yeah, so there's really so those were just our topical points, but the idea of a gift, because I was in art programs my whole life, and when people would say like, oh, it's a gift, I didn't fully understand that also. So like the idea of not knowing what that gift is, I think, like I didn't watch this as a child, and I think if I had, I would have also been like, wait, what's a gift? What do you mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, even just the descriptor, the word gift kind of flips the the meaning instead of it being like I have a talent and now I'm the gift to the world. It's like, no, this was actually something you were given.
Yeah.
Yes.
And therefore you have to be a good steward of it, right? Like as opposed to everybody it would be so lucky as for me to express my talent or something like that.
That reminds me of the C.S. Lewis quote about how the father gives his son a sixpence to go buy him a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes out to the store and purchases a gift and gives, the father back a gift for his birthday. And the father is sixpence none the richer, which is where the band got their name.
Mm.
But you get gifts that God give us being, given back to him. God is sixpence none the richer.
My C.S. Lewis is over there. I know you're looking behind me.
Yeah, I read. I was easy to read the Narnia books as a child, but I think fourth grade I tried to read Fellowship and did not make it past the birthday.
It's hard. It's hard. You're gonna hear a lot about the Saxville Bagginses and the
Lobelia.
the Proudfoots.
Nonsense. Yeah.
You're gonna be wading through a lot of that, but I don't know. There is just such like lyricism and beauty to the language, and whenever when I've read it, I've been like, this is incredible. They were able to adapt this.
Yeah.
Like, and then when you see what he found in the text to pull out and put into the movie or put into dialogue, it's like, wow, man, that's like on another level.
Yeah. I said anytime I was talking to someone to work about this the other day, this is my favorite character in the books is Faramir. And as much as I love the movies, every time I watch them, I'm like, man, they did Faramir wrong. They did my boy wrong.
They had to get conflict in there.
I'm like, they could have done him so much more. That would have been another 4 hours.
Yeah.
This is the trouble.
Because I always say, I try to be my own Faramir in my life every day. But
if it was just frictionless, that part of the movie might have gotten cut. So
yeah,
I was as a teenager watching the whole Faramir thing, I was like very moved by it because I have my dad's not like a brutal fraudulent king or anything,
right?
but he's very hard on me, and he doesn't let a moment pass without some critique, and I remember being very moved by it.
Yeah, and Faramir's speech about you may love the arrow, you may love the sword, but what do they represent? I'm blanking on the speech right now, but when he's talking to Eowyn and he's like, you don't have to die in battle. Like, do you understand what you're doing and saying? Like, you're in love with the idea of being a warrior because you think that an honorable death is like what you need to prove yourself. But what you need to prove yourself is like, you were born in this incredible position to be a leader to your people. They love you. You're a strong leader. Being dead isn't gonna, you might think that brings you glory, but what's gonna bring you glory is to lead your people who lean on you and who trust you. And that's my role also. I just happen by the position of my birth to have to go to war. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. It's a necessary evil. And, I'm a chef. I work in a male dominated industry. So like, I've always had like a very strong connection to Eowyn. I've felt like Eowyn very often in my life where, I need to be the biggest and baddest and like, yeah, I slayed the Witch King in service last night, guys, and that leads to really bad behavior. And when Eowyn is being led to bad behavior, as a result, she gets injured and she like gives up and she's like, I just want to die. And there's been so many times where I'm like, there's no point. I just want to die. When Faramir is talking to her and he's like, it doesn't have to be like this. Do you understand that you're like turning your wheels? You're exhausting yourself. And the way that he's able to give up the ring because this isn't important to him anymore is like so profound and so powerful. And the way that his character is so wise and level-headed. Every time I read it, I'm like, oh, you're talking to me. Okay.
Yeah, and that kind of like mentorship isn't really there. I mean, it's not there in the movies.
Yeah.
But using your gift for ultimate the betterment of your people and your society.
Yeah.
It goes through. Frankie, thank you. So we've hit 90 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
You probably need to get back to your family.
Probably.
We didn't even talk about the silly song.
This is great. No notes.
No.
I'm always dreaming.
There's a pun for those who have not seen the episode. And if you haven't seen the episode, what are you doing? the Elvish impersonator.
Yeah,
pun.
you're just an Elvish impersonator. And I love the way Larry said, "Don't point that thing at me."
Yeah. That
It did remind me of a South Park joke from a few years ago where it was like the kids were grown up and they were like one guy wasn't getting vaccinated. Clyde wasn't getting vaccinated. And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing it because I have a shellfish allergy. And they're like, what do you mean you have a shellfish allergy? He's like, yeah, I have like some kind of, I don't know, shellfish allergy. And they said, so you're not getting vaccinated out of a general sense of shellfishness?
was very
Elvish
similar.
impersonator.
Matt and Trey with the dad jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, the Elvish impersonator. I made Yvonne watch that one also. I was like, oh, wow. That was...
Yeah, get in here.
Yeah. I was like, come here. Yeah.
Well, Frankie, thank you for joining us.
Thank
can
you
be
so much.
Found at Red Cow Entertainment on YouTube and Red Cow Arcade as well. What do you have coming up on Red Cow Entertainment? Is another Box Mac or a Junts card or?
Yeah, we have a lot coming up. The most immediate thing that's coming up is the dude bro that that we got in an online beef with has come on to our show.
Oh.
Ooh.
And we speak to him for 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm getting that edited to make sure that it's not too unwatchable. And then 'cause I think a lot of the audience will chafe with him, and we want it to go down a little bit smoother than that. But it was I found it kind of, I don't know, gratifying in a way to get in this kind of comedic beef with somebody and then just have them on. Be like, yeah, sure. And then we're gonna go. Jason Graves and I are gonna go to PAX East,
Oh, that'll be fun.
so that you'll see a video there. We're gonna try to get John Hunn, and we will probably. I mean, I have plans to see Justin Silverman.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll probably do that, or at least, we'll get to say hi to him. And we we shot a new episode of Box Mac like a month ago, maybe more now. About it's like a parody of Hot Ones. It's called Box Ones, and we interview each other and we try all of James Rolfe's hot sauces, and as well as Billy Mitchell's hot sauce and many others. And we shot it all nice. And so that's being edited by Chris LaRue. He's just taking his time with it because there's like motion graphics and all kinds of, it's going to be like really, really awesome. It's going to be like a holiday special mid-year, basically.
Now-
And then, I don't know if you know this, but EJ Massa just had a baby today.
Today. I did not know today.
So Clara Massa joins us.
Congratulate EJ. I'm sure you're listening to this and have made it this far.
There's no way.
Nonetheless, congratulations.
But he didn't, they intentionally kept the gender a secret, and it's a girl. So super cute.
Heard.
Good.
And I'm sure we'll do, I mean, I have lots of other plans. I'm sure we'll review the Linkara movie and lots else coming. So get your editing fingers ready, Michael.
I'll take it. I do it solely for the money.
Yeah.
Look, sorry about that. Do you collect legacy crap like we do?
I have records and I have games.
Yeah.
I have a couple of
Tapes?
tapes. I showed you my.
You're an action figure man also.
toys.
Yeah.
I'll do action figures.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of. I think I showed you some of the tapes I got. The the widescreen VHS tapes of.
Oh yeah, you
Indiana
did
Jones.
actually. That's right. That's cool. I have no idea if Liz watches any of our content, by the way. I don't have a clue.
was told about it right before we started recording. So I was
Immediately before.
yeah. So I was like, oh, I really wish I had
This is well planned.
at first I was like red cow, like my Parsha, like there was cow. Like
Oh, right. Yeah, it was not intended to be religious.
I was like, that's crazy and bringing up some trauma. You know what it's like being a redhead, having to read the red cow Parsha at your bat mitzvah.
We did Michael tell you about this guy that we got in a beef with at all?
No.
We talk about movies, Marvel, whatever, like anything, CRT collecting and all this stuff. We just talk about whatever suits our fancy. And one of the things 5 years ago we started talking about was like when the Angry Video Game Nerd was kind of falling off, and we were looking into like how that happened and how that came to be. And then it happened to be like that year that we spoke about it. One of the videos went viral where I'm like sitting in short shorts on like a stool near my arcade area. And I was like in my PJs basically.
Yeah.
By short shorts, I mean just there was like short pajama bottoms.
Yeah.
But everybody could see them. It looks ridiculous, and it blew up. It got like I don't know. It's up to like 300,000 views now or something, and but people enjoy it and they go back to it, and so that got us on a kick of like every once in a while we talk about James Rolfe and AVGN, and we're not always critical, but we're often critical. Mm-hmm. Of like but more we look at him in the lens of like modern or like the life cycle of YouTube, like what's it like to be on YouTube for 20 years, right? Because he hired a bunch of people that really had no business making the show, and he kind of like fell asleep, and so we've just find that kind of entertaining. And so there's this like total musclehead, this guy that's like this is like total beefcake that made a video. Where he was super pissed off at us, and he's railing at us for being virgins and we're like sexless morons, and like every kind of like base insult you could think of, he was hurling at us. And but at the same time, he was also deconstructing because he was talking about how like he never gets any sleep. He's only on like 3 hours of sleep a night, and the reason is because his lady is always pestering him.
Okay, telling on himself, yeah.
Kind of manosphere stuff too, and it was like, this is ridiculous. It was like very clownish.
Oh, when he said he was 30, I'm like, I looked at him and like, you're 30?
You thought he was like 55?
I thought he was late 30s.
Nah, he's a kid.
He's like, I'm 30.
So he ended up, we ended up doing a video. I edited it to the nines. And we really kind of roasted the guy, and it's very entertaining, not to be missed.
I'll look into this.
Essential YouTube.
Yeah. And
then he watched it live and he laughed his butt off and thought it was really funny. And so that was enough for us. I was like, "Why don't you come on the show?" And so we interviewed this meathead for 2 hours. This guy who is like not really, not the sort of guy you'd see on our show.
Yeah.
So entertaining. That's what's been going on lately outside of parenting and going to work and going to church.
We're about to get hit by the worst part of the storm. So
All right, well, you guys go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for being here.
Yes, please. It was delightful conversation. Yes. Thank you, Frankie.
I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it myself. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
And remember,
God made you special,
and he loves you very much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.